I think drawing can feel scary and complicated because we tend to look at the finished subject. Take this dancer, for instance, and it just feels overwhelming. But like any complicated situation in life, I think that the key here is to take that first small logical step to get you where you want to be, and then follow the method I'm going to share. That's it. And you'll see that it's so easy that you can get started now and apply it to absolutely any subject you want. Hi, I'm Françoise. Welcome back to my channel. The way to start is a tiny and very easy step, and to illustrate my point, I've printed a simplified sketch of the photo that I'm going to be using today, even though usually when I draw, I use my computer screen as the reference. We're going to draw this on a slightly smaller scale since I'm going to be using the sketchbook, which makes it a bit harder to draw, since, as you can imagine, measuring and converting everything to the correct scale is a complete pain, and that's why I wanted to make that video and share an easier method. I'll use my water-soluble graphite pencils from Faber-Castell because I want to turn this into a realistic drawing later, and it's one of my favorite mediums. A sketch like this one will help you if you're a complete beginner because it simplifies the reference photo. And you can easily get something like this with an app or just a photo editor on your device, or even just a free website like Sketch My Pic. That's the one I'm using. Your first very easy step is to look at the size of the sheet you're going to draw on and decide where the top and the bottom are going to be. It's as simple as that. Ask yourself if your subject is more of a portrait or landscape size. Mine is vertical portrait, and the dress isn't extremely wide compared to where the hands are ending. So I'm going to add a mark on top and on the bottom of the sheet first. That's how I decide of the final size of my drawing. If your subject is more of a landscape orientation, then I would start marking the sides left and right. And a quick look at your photo will give you that kind of information. Decide if it's more portrait or landscape and how things fit. Now, what's the next logical step here? We'll want to either center the drawing on the paper or place it somewhere in particular if we have a lot of white space. Mine is a small sheet, and I decided that I wanted to fill that up, so my ballerina will be centered, and here I find it convenient to use a ruler to find the middle of the sheet. It's also important to locate the middle of your subject on the actual sketch, so you have something to compare your drawing to now that we have decided where we'd center the ballerina on the sketchbook. With my fingers, I try and locate what the middle would be, and I'm noticing it's right there. And it's convenient because when I trace the line that marks the middle of this sketch, notice how it matches the exact location of her foot. And this is pure chance, but it's super helpful because now we know exactly where to draw the foot later. Let's keep adding the next puzzle piece because what we need are landmarks, and what I think is a good idea to improve instead of using the grid method is to go for it in a more intuitive way where we're going to train our observation, organization, and deduction skills. I decide to locate the middle of this figure, and to do it I use my fingers again. It's less tedious than a ruler. And I try to divide my drawing into halves or thirds, or 4 or 5 equal parts, whatever helps me find a pattern that works. Here from the top of the right hand to the armpit in the left arm, I'm noticing that pattern I'm talking about because this is exactly 1/3 of the entire figure, which means that I can mark those areas, and now I know what they are and where they are on my sheet. Now we can move on, and I'd like to start drawing the arms, but where should they actually stop? This is a deduction game, a puzzle, and I think you're getting the point here. On the printed sketch, I mark the element that is at the far left, the tip of the dress, as a landmark, and I do the same with the far right, the tip of her fingers. I use my technique again with rough measurements, and I notice I have the exact same spacing between these two areas. It's another pattern. Now I know these two parts are equally as wide, I can go and mark that on the sketchbook. Now I hope you can see how easy this technique is to use. And please don't worry about the steps that are coming because they're easy as well, and the more you practice this, the more you're going to improve. And I'm going to show you exactly how to do that next. But first, if you're interested in the topic I'm drawing today and you want full guidance from a flat drawing to a finished one in real time, you can try my new Skillshare class and paint this beautiful ballerina. And if you prefer Patreon, I've also shared today's sketch in real time there. I have a few other finished projects of the kind there as well. So I'll place both links in the description of the video if you want to check them out. This is where many of us start feeling powerless and a bit lost, but don't worry because I'll show you how you don't need to be perfect to draw perfectly for your drawing to come out beautiful and accurate. At this stage, I start looking for shapes in my reference. The main ones that always come up are lines, circles, and sometimes triangles, squares, and rectangles. I find that lines come up in pretty much every subject we might want to draw. They're pretty easy to spot when we look for elongated areas in a drawing, and we could think of arms and legs for a figure or just trees, anything. Circle, ovals, they often come up in figure painting, the portrait, and also white life and still life. And you can look for something that's rounded to find those shapes. I'll show you more about that next. We also have triangles. They come up in many subjects and you can look for something pointy. This bird here would be a great example of a large triangle as the main shape, although we could also see circles here. We could use both or just one or the other depending on how comfortable you feel and what you need to keep moving in your drawing. There really are no rules as to how many shapes you should be using. Should you find all those shapes, you just do it intuitively. Find one landmark, then place the next one, then from there go somewhere else, and that's how it works. And I rarely use rectangles and squares, but I imagine they could come up in something like a cityscape or anything that's blocky. In this photo, I see one main line for the body, and I'm not going to worry about that other leg yet. Then I see two more lines for the arms, and I don't know about you, but I quickly feel like I don't know where to place them exactly if that's all I have. So for now, let's do this approximately with what we have, and we'll improve on that later. After the arms, the logical step for me here would be to locate the head. It will be helpful. So here again, I'm looking for a pattern so I can repeat that in the sketchbook. Now that I know where the head is ending, I'm converting this part of the body into circles. If you have a hard time doing it, again, look for the rounded spots, and there you can see you have a circle. Even if on the printed sketch, it's not a complete one and not very obvious. With all the landmarks I previously placed and my measuring technique with the fingers, I'm able to locate them and draw. And I keep in mind my own drawing is a bit smaller than the actual printed sketch, which means that the circles themselves should also be smaller in my sketchbook compared to the ones I drew on the sketch. Another big help with this method is to check on how certain things align with each other. That's exactly what I'm doing here, to decide where I'll draw the circle in the knee. I spot a triangle in her dress now. And the goal here is to find one of the pointy ends and then the two other ones and just link them all. And again, this technique helps a lot. Notice that my version of the sketch isn't perfect, but it's important to remember that we can refine any drawing, and also that this does not have to be perfect to look good. You can also erase. I erased the face here to draw it again, and as usual, I pay attention to shapes. We could see a small triangle here too, for instance. And look at the alignment also, that helps. We can see how different things align with each other, and I can place the eyes, the nose, and everything a little bit better. While I was drawing, I noticed that I was a bit off in places, slightly enough that it did not bother the process at all. And that's how effective this method is in my experience, and it makes drawing less annoying and less intimidating, I think. Let me know what you think in the comments. And you can see my mistake clearly from the foot not being placed on the dot I had drawn in the beginning. But then when you think about it, does the sketch look weird or off overall? I personally am content with it, and I think it will turn out amazing when I finish that drawing. And I encourage you to aim at excellence and never perfection. And if you're starting from zero, think about how much and how fast you can improve by just practicing this, and also how you can pick more simple subjects to begin with and just train your eye and puzzle solving ability. I hope this was a helpful drawing video, and I would love to know and hear what your favorite takeaway is in the comments below. You may watch this video next or head on over to the description to join me on Patreon or Skillshare for more practice. Thank you so much for watching and see you next time!